today I'm going to start building the Q157 mud truck, or what they call 4x4 light truck. Now part one is fitting the front bumper a hook to the chassis rail. We have these little nut screws which are going to drive me nuts because I haven't got anything like correct to run them in. So hopefully they're not too hard with pliers. They seem to go into the chassis, so we'll do a test run. They're not too bad. Now they're going okay. So and it says into metal parts use a little bit, use thread lock. Well, we won't use a lot. So let's get a little dot of thread lock onto a board. And get the 2/8, the bumper. It's easy to guess which way up because that hole is near the top. And then we've got to go through the hook. And a little bit of thread lock. And try and get this all to line up. Which could be easier said than done. I think it's going in. Yeah, I think it is. I'll get the second 8 in. I said I am putting the minimum amount on. Like I say, it's one thing I've never brought or needed, well, thought I would need is such a tiny little wrench. I don't think I've even got a spanner that small. But I'll show you them screwed in on the next part. I'm not going to film this because this is going to take me quite a time. There we go. I've got the bumper on. It's not super tight, but it's not too bad. It shows an adapter, which I haven't got. 2.5 to 2. Because it comes under recommended. So I just don't know. But I've looked through and I've not spotted it at the moment. So on to part 2. Now section 2 is a lot easier. It's just 3 screws. They're 2.5 by 6, and it's a spring hanger, which is this part here. And that just literally screws on to that part of the chassis. And they warn about do not over tighten it into the metal, just a bit of thread lock and tweak it, and the thread lock should do the rest of the work. And that completes part 2. Now section 3 is adding this little block, and it says left and note direction. This one has got L on it, and what you have to do is get it in and use the smaller holes which are wider apart. Well, that might say L, but if you look at the instructions, if you look at the holes, that hole is nearer there. So I'm going to fit right. So that's got to be a mistake in the manual. Yeah, now it lines up. Let's see how the screws go in. Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's a little mistake, but it definitely says left chassis rail, which is left, because there's no way you can get this really wrong. So it's not going in nice. Oh well, I'm not happy. The screw's gone. So I'm going to have to take this out and start again. Now I've got the screw out, and I've run the screws in this time, which I'll be doing more in future. Let's check the holes. But it shows you what issues you can run into. And that's the screw I damaged. Hopefully I don't need any spares. But so far, I'm not over mad of how this has gone. Hopefully those blocks never need to come out again. But there was no way the other ones were going to fit. But at the end of the day, they're going to supply well, what I don't get is you can't see the holes. So it must hopefully something screw from above. Otherwise it wouldn't fit. But that completes part 3. Now on to part 4. We've got to put on this bracket here with an outer bracket, and it overlaps on one hole and it just screws on the other. So it's 3 screws the same size. These are 2.6 or 2.56 millimeter. Just going to have a quick test in the holes. Seem pretty free. and we'll check the one on the chassis, which is between these two little holes here. Yep. So what I'm going to do is this, we've got the big bracket, but we've got the little bracket on the outside, which is this little thing here. And I'm going to start with that one first, just set it off. And then I'm going to go through the other hole and fit on the first part of this bracket, which faces backwards this way. So let's get that through. And before we tweak them, let's get the last screw in. Yeah, it's not a nice day here today. It's pouring down with rain again, which we've had so much of. There we go, that's how it goes. I would have thought they would have used a slightly longer screw through the middle, you know, used an 8 or something. But it just clearly says the same, so we'll leave it as they said. But that completes part 4. Now part 5 is making 2 spring hangers. Be careful because there is 2 different sizes of these little V-shaped ones. And we've got to make 2 of them, but we only use one, which we fit through the chassis. So it is a case of one bit either side and the pin goes through. So what I recommend doing is working out which end of the pin, which is the smaller hole, we go through and out, and then we take the centre bit, slide that in, then the other side, and then the fun bit, trying to not lose the 2mm E-clip. I can't, the camera angle I've got, I can't really show this. Try and partly hold it, if you can see, and then try and pop it on without bending. See how that feels. I think that's on. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make one, because you don't need to see me faffing with 2. And then this has got to go onto the chassis through this hole here. So line it up and slide in the tube. Then another one of these stepped bolts. Like so. Being truthful, I'm quite surprised they don't have a washer on the other side. You know what I'm saying? It sounds silly, but... And then the second E-clip, I'll just get into place. Like so, and click it on. and that's what you end up with. A very rattly spring hanger.